Want to save time? Want to save a little bit of effort in doing other things? Well, this might be your answer. Okay, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm, and now I can think of a number of products we use out here, but this one just might be one of the most valuable. I wasn't such a big believer at first, but I grew in to be a believer. If you go back to the early videos that we had of Perma Pastures Farm, especially the Permaculture at Work series, I needed technology in order to even make that possible. So I'd never done a chicken door before. We'd never done anything other than manually going out there, opening the door, letting them out, and then bringing them back in at the end of the day. But if you go back to that video, I was a little bit concerned about the reliability of this thing, or any other chicken door for that matter. So anyway, this chicken door, I initially used it on the Deluxe Model 4000. I think that's what I called it. And I was a little concerned because anything that has a photo eye on it always concerns me, even the high-end ones. Now, there are some out there that are very, very reliable, some not so much. Let's say it's in the middle of summer and you've already taken a shower, the day's long in the tooth, you're wore out, and the last thing you want to do is come all the way back out and get sweaty again before you go back in and go to bed. Well, this bad boy just might help you, especially when your chickens are in a remote location or not so close to the house. So it has a few settings on it. You can go ahead and set this thing up to where it will open and close based on a timer. Or you can set it up to where it'll open on a photocell and close on a photocell, or you can do a combination of the two, where let's say it opens on a photocell and closes on your timer. Well, as I stated a moment ago, I'm not at all a big believer of using a photocell because I know how notoriously unreliable those things can be. So it's not a big deal for me to come out here every couple of weeks or so and readjust the timer on it in order to make it work. So I guess that brings us into how well does it work? Well, folks, I'll be honest with you. The battery on this life is light years better than anything I would have ever dreamed of. And the reliability of it, the reason I'm looking so cockeyed in this frame is because this chicken tractor, which we designed to be in pretty rough terrain, is cockeyed. The camera you're looking at is level, but this isn't. Despite that, and despite how far over we get this thing still reliably goes up within these tracks, in the most awesome way. In fact, to date, the only problem I can recall ever having with it is when it snowed quite a bit and it got a little bit gummed up in the tracks. But outside of that, there's not been a problem. But what I did find, one downside of this, is that it doesn't keep great time, but it's not a big concern. Because you're gonna come out here and adjust this thing every couple of weeks or a few weeks anyway. And that's really the only real criticism I have of it. Even when this thing gets a little bit cockeyed, it still goes up and goes down reliably. You can feel the motor in there work a little harder than it ordinarily would, but it still works. Now, in this particular case, if you go back and watch our build of this particular chicken tractor a few videos ago, you'll realize that I cut this thing down. I think it came at 17 inches. And I believe they designed this thing to be able to handle geese, ducks, things larger than a chicken. Well, and then it also says in the specs that you want to leave a little 2-inch gap between this and the top of your door. Well, we broke all those rules because I needed this thing to be considerably smaller, because from bottom to top in this particular chicken tractor design, it's only 2 feet. So you need greater than 2 feet to be able to leave that door as long as it was. Well, I cut that thing down, I think, to 11 inches. And I think that's the maximum I could do. And in those videos, I even stated that I could have probably brought it down somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8 inches and still have no problem getting these birds out of here. Well, I'm here to tell you that even with these non-manufactured recommended adjustments, this thing still works perfectly. We've had no problems whatsoever. So in future builds, I'll be honest with you folks, I'm going to use it again. Maybe even try some others, but this one has worked reliably. Batteries work well. It opens up and down as it's supposed to. And it even has a little warning light to tell you when the batteries are getting low. So, like I said, I'm not being paid by Chicken Guard to do this. I'm just letting you know what we use and what works for us. And thus far to date, I really have no disappointments whatsoever in this product. So I will use it in the future. And in the future, we intend to do other chicken tractors, make modifications to the one we have here, and use that same door in other chicken tractors that we intend to build. And those are videos you definitely want to stay in tune for, because we're going to do some things that have never been done before with chickens, and that door is going to help us do it. With that said, I got to say, this is one of the most surprisingly well-built products I've ever had in terms of farm usage. This little girl's happy with it. We're happy with it. And I suspect that in its right application, even in its wrong application, as we've done here, it's worked perfectly, worked beautifully. So with that said, I just want to say, maybe you might want to give it a try, maybe you don't. Either way, this is what we use. This is Billy, the permaculture pimp daddy from Perma Pastures Farm. We'll see you next time.